We start here. Some victims of the Mamatlakala bridge bus crash in Limpopo have been identified by their families and the church. Officials say they have prioritized the crash victims by getting staff from hospitals that are not too busy to give a hand at Mokopane Hospital from Tuesday onwards. 46 Zion Christian Church members died on their way to the Easter pilgrimage, almost 2 hours away from their destination. Let's cross to our reporter Nqobile Madlala for an update. Nqobile, while families seek closure, authorities there are relying on DNA testing to help identify some of the bus victims or the crash victims there. What's the latest?
Well, yes, in fact, they were just saying that the whole of Saturday was spent going through radiology, which is the case where they are able to obtain the data that is coming out of who exactly the people are, as well as the sort of DNA that they can use to match to ensure that the families can be matched to the right deceased or rather remains. We know that at this point that they're saying that it's not that they're only doing that here alone. We know that they are working with their counterparts in Botswana, where they are also taking some of the DNA that side from the families, and those will then be used to match. But at the same time, we understand that because of the gravity of the accident, that quite a lot of people were then burnt beyond recognition, which means that it's going to be quite a big job to identify each part of each person and each individual, which is why then the Department of Health is saying at this point that they need more hands on deck to be able to assist them to identify each individual, to be able to give those answers to each family. We know that at this point they've got over 40 bags of the ones that have passed away, and at this case they're still going through each and every one of them to ensure that they are making sure that it's not one person that may be in that one bag. We have heard from the Department of Health, the MEC, explaining to us that during the point of impact, some people that were in a bus may have maybe moved, may have clubbed together during that point where it then, when the crash happened and the bus started burning. So they find that some of the bones or some of the remains will then club together, meaning that they need to separate them and be able to identify each individual. So it's quite a big job that they need to go through, which is why then they are saying that they need more help from some of the people that are on the ground. But because when the accident happened, it wasn't just one vehicle that had come into the country. It so happens that some of the vehicles were already at ZCC, which means that at St. Agnes ZCC, which means that some of the victims had their relatives that were already in South Africa. So those are some of the victims' families that were able to come to the hospital. They were able to understand which bus it was. You will remember that there is that list that they're going by, which is still being verified. So some of those then were able to identify their people, and then they were able to say who this person is. But part of that also includes providing the right documentation to be able to understand that it is in fact the correct person. That's from the procedure side, but also on the other side, you understand that the families are also quite emotional at this point. There's a lot that's going through them. So we have psychosocial supports that we have heard that is already dispatched on the ground to ensure that these families have somebody to speak to, that they are able to be healed emotionally, even though this process is going to be quite lengthy and it will take time for them to heal, but at least they have somebody that can assist them. So the social development also just coming into that, saying that they will be assisting. But on a national level, you will remember that Transport Minister also came on the ground. So she, alongside Home Affairs, DOCO and Interpol, are also working on their part of what is currently taking place. You will remember, because it's an accident, it happened on the road, so Road Accident Fund also needs to come in, and this will be part of Transport Minister's part. But also at the same time, for documentation to be verified, you have to bring in Home Affairs, and Home Affairs will know that the documentation is correct. So there's quite a lot of processes that they are going through. But on the good part is that the 8-year-old, which we understand is a sole survivor, Madlala, is currently sound around. We're told that she's really happy that she's able to speak. She now has been reunited with her mother, as well as her uncle, who has come to see her. But from the mother's side as well, it's quite difficult, as you can imagine, that the child was with the granny, or the woman she identified as her granny, and that means that her granny, her mother, now needs to also be part of that DNA process that is currently taking place, which means also that she at the same time is in mourning of what has happened, but at the same time just sort of grateful for the child. So you can imagine or appreciate just how difficult it is for that family and the emotion she's going through. So the MEC explaining to us that at this point they are working with those families. It's such a fragile state, so they want to make sure that everyone is emotionally ready for everything that is taking place.